The blizzard came down from the high peaks without warning. One moment the sky was a pale winter blue. The next it was swallowed by a wall of white fury. Snow hammered the land sideways, driven by winds sharp enough to flay the skin from a man's face. Cowboy Jace Harper leaned low in the saddle, his scarf frozen stiff against his jaw, the reins stiff in his numb hands. His horse, a grizzled roan named Whiskey, snorted steam that evaporated instantly into the swirling frost. Each step grew heavier, hooves sinking deep, the cold burrowing into bone. Jace had ridden through storms before, but nothing like this. This one felt alive, angry, hungry, intent on swallowing everything on the ridge. He couldn't see more than a few feet ahead. The world had dissolved into a blur of white and shadow. Only the memory of the trail kept him moving, but even that memory felt shaky now. If he made one wrong turn, he'd end up in one of the ravines that cut through Red Rock Ridge like jagged scars. Another gust slammed into him, nearly knocking him from the saddle. Jace gritted his teeth. "Easy, boy. Just a little farther," he rasped, though he couldn't hear his own voice over the wailing wind. But Whiskey hesitated, ears pricking forward, head lifting despite the cold. Jace blinked, squinting through the storm. At first he saw nothing, but then a faint glow, a soft shimmer of orange dancing behind a curtain of white. Firelight! His heart kicked hard in his chest. Could it be a trapper, a hunter's camp, or just a trick of a desperate man's frozen eyes? He pulled the roan toward the glow, each step a battle. The light grew clearer, steadier, and soon he could make out the dark outline of a rock formation, tall, slabs leaning together like a natural shelter. Smoke curled from a narrow vent near the top, thin but undeniably real. Hope flared in his chest, warm for the first time in hours. He slid from the saddle, nearly collapsing when his boots hit the ground. His legs trembled with exhaustion as he led Whiskey toward the gap between the rocks. A hide flap hung over a narrow entrance, shifting slightly in the wind. A fire crackled within. Jace mustered what strength he had left and pushed the flap aside. Inside, warmth hit him like a physical blow, and so did the sharp, watchful eyes of the Apache woman who stood waiting in the glow of the flames. For a long breath, neither of them moved. The woman stood perfectly still, framed by the firelight. Her long black hair was braided, with strips of red cloth and small carved beads that clicked softly when she shifted. The bow in her left hand was already drawn. He hadn't even seen her lift it, and the arrow's obsidian head glimmered in the flickering light. Jace froze, raising his hand slowly. "Ma'am, I don't want trouble. Just warmth. Storm caught me out bad." The woman didn't blink. Her gaze swept him, boots, coat, hands, face, as if measuring the threat in every inch. "You walk into my shelter like a starving coyote," she said, her voice low, certain. "And expect me not to guard my fire?" Jace swallowed. He could feel the heat of the flames at his back and the cold storm clawing behind him. Between those two forces, her arrow was the sharpest danger of all. "I'm unarmed," he said carefully. "You can check. Ain't looking for a fight." "I already checked," she replied. Her certainty startled him. She had seen everything, the tremble in his hands, the frost caked in his lashes, the sag in his shoulders. She knew he was near collapse. She also knew desperation could make a man dangerous. She stepped closer, still keeping the arrow aimed at him. "Cowboy, men die on nights like this. Some die outside, some die because they think they can. Take what is not theirs." She tilted her head slightly. "Which kind are you?" Jace shook his head. His voice cracked when he spoke. "The kind just trying to stay alive." For the first time, the woman's expression shifted, not softening but acknowledging. She lowered her bow, though she didn't unstring the arrow. Her confidence radiated from her like heat from the fire. "I am Tala of the White Mountain people. This is my shelter. My fire, my rules." "Tala," Jace repeated, trying the name respectfully. "I'm Jace Harper." She gestured toward the fire with a curt motion. "You may warm yourself. But hear me clearly. You stay where I can see your hands. You touch nothing without asking. You leave with the sunrise." Jace nodded, sinking near the fire with a grateful sigh. "I can do that." Tala moved to sit across from him, bow still within easy reach, eyes never leaving his face. As the wind howled outside, Jace realized something unsettling. The storm wasn't the only dangerous force he'd walked into tonight. Night deepened slowly but relentlessly, as if the darkness itself were tightening around the small shelter. The fire popped and hissed, its sparks drifting upward, through the smoke hole before vanishing, into the frozen storm. Even inside, the cold crept in like a patient hunter. Jace held his hands close to the flames, trying to coax feeling back into his fingers. His coat was stiff with frost. His boots were soaked through. Every so often a shiver racked his body, sharp and unavoidable. Across the fire, Tala watched him with that same steady, unreadable gaze. She sat on a pile of furs, posture straight, bow beside her. The only sound between them was the drumming wind outside, until she finally spoke. "You are still shaking," she observed, not unkindly. "I'll manage," Jace muttered, trying to sound tough, though his voice quivered more than he intended. Tala didn't smile, but her eyes flicked over him knowingly. Pride is a heavy thing to carry in winter. Put it down for one night. Before he could answer, she stood and crossed the shelter. Her shadow moved like a spirit along the stone walls. She lifted a buffalo hide with one hand, letting it fall beside her sleeping place, a large, thick mat of furs arranged near the warmest part of the fire. Then she looked directly at him. "If you sleep alone, you will die." Jace blinked, caught off guard by the bluntness. "The cold will find your heart before dawn," she continued. "Fire can only keep one side warm. The other side needs another body." His breath caught, not out of fear, but from the sudden weight of the situation. She knelt, arranging the fur blankets with practical, efficient motions. "I have seen this storm before. I have carried men out of it and buried others. I do not plan to bury a stranger tomorrow." Jace tried to steady himself. "Tala, I don't want to disrespect you." She raised an eyebrow. "Your death would disrespect me more. I do not share my shelter with ghosts." The logic was harsh, but true. He knew it. Every mountain-born instinct in him said she was right. "Share my bed or freeze. This is survival. Nothing else." Her tone carried no flirtation, no softness, only certainty. Slowly he nodded. Tala lifted the fur blanket and motioned for him to lie down beside her. He did, careful and awkward, trying not to intrude more than necessary. As the furs settled over them and their shared warmth began to push back the killing cold, Jace exhaled shakily. For the first time that night, he felt truly safe, and terribly aware of the woman who had saved him. The storm died with the slow reluctance of a wounded beast. By the time dawn crept across Red Rock Ridge, pale and gold, the wind had quieted to nothing more than a tired hiss through the rock cracks. Jace woke to the soft warmth of the fire and the faint smell of juniper smoke. For a moment he didn't remember where he was. The heavy furs, the stone ceiling, the lingering warmth beside him. Then it all came back. Tala was already awake. She sat cross-legged near the fire, her back straight, her braids falling over her shoulders like dark rivers. She drew a whetstone along the edge of her knife in slow, even strokes. The rhythmic sound, shk, 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 was strangely calming and mildly intimidating at the same time. Jace pushed himself upright, careful not to disturb anything in the shelter. His muscles protested after the night's frozen ordeal, but at least they were alive enough to ache. Tala didn't look up when she spoke. "You breathe steady," she said. "Good. Last night I thought the cold might swallow your lungs." Jace let out a small laugh. "Ma'am, I thought the same about myself." She set the knife down and turned her eyes toward him, sharp but not unkind. "You live because you listened. Too many wanderers think they can bargain with winter." "I'm grateful," Jace said quietly. "You saved my life." Tala rose to her feet in one fluid motion. "I told you, survival, nothing else. You owe me nothing." But her words carried something beneath them. Not softness, but acknowledgement. A recognition that for one night, their lives had been tied together by more than chance. She stepped toward the entrance and pushed the hide flap aside. A blast of frigid air swept in, but sunlight sparkled on the snow like scattered crystals. "The storm has passed," she said. "The trail down the valley will be clear by midday." Jace nodded and stood brushing off the furs. "You heading out too?" For a time, she shouldered her bow and slung a small satchel over her back. "I will guide you down the mountain." After that, our paths split. He hesitated, looking at her silhouette framed in the morning light. "If I ever cross your path again, Tala." He searched for the right words. "I'll remember what you did." Tala's lips curved in the faintest hint of a smirk. "Then remember also not to challenge storms alone." With that, she stepped into the snow, leaving him to follow, and leaving behind the quiet, unforgettable warmth of a night when survival had pulled two strangers together.